Okay. So, good morning. I am very happy to welcome each of you to our Missing and Murdered Diné Relatives Forum. My name is Jolene Holgate, and I'm the coordinator for our working group. Glizathlanin shle dolok at Diné Bashichin Hushk on Hatzahat Shichedo, Torij Eating Dashanella, Shantua Hatan Yisinasha. Currently, I reside in Flagstaff. I'm originally from Shanto. My mother is of the Mini Goats clan. I'm born for my father's clan, which is the Reed people. My Chays, or my maternal grandfathers, are yucca fruit strung out in a line, and my paternal grandfathers are bitter water. So that's how I identify myself, and if I have any relatives here, welcome, but as well, welcome everybody. So just to kind of give you a little bit of the background of what's going to happen. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay, so invite Mr. Dave. Hello. Okay. Whoa, I can hear myself now. And he's going to provide the opening prayer. So I'm just going to kind of go through the agenda here. And he will also provide the welcome remarks. Council Delegate Amber Crotty is currently on travel, so her remarks will actually be moved until the afternoon, but she will be here. And so that would give Mr. Conejo a couple of more minutes for the introduction. So we started this initiative in March of this year, and we have about almost 30 members within our working group. And this is comprised of volunteer advocates, epidemiologists, researchers, injury prevention, policy individuals, individuals from IHS, Diné College, Northern Arizona University. So we're a very robust group of volunteers coming together and investing our time and energy into this project. We are 100% volunteer and we are zero funded. So everything that we bring to you today is a culmination of that hard work and passion that we have for this issue. This initiative is led by Council Delegate Amber Crotty. She's been an advocate for sexual violence prevention, domestic violence prevention, suicide prevention since she started her term with the 23rd Council. She has transitioned into the 24th Council and was reelected. So I want to provide that thank you to my Shade Delegate Crotty. And so that's just a little bit of background of who we are. So for the sake of time, let me go ahead and have Mr. David Conejo, if you could come up. He will be providing the opening prayer as well as the welcome remarks. And I want to thank the Rehoboth McKinley Christian Healthcare Services for supporting us as well as allowing us to host this forum here. We feel like this is a really important issue. And we'd also like to thank the Navajo Nation TV and film crew. They will be streaming this online, so if you guys have friends that weren't able to make it or colleagues, please tell them to visit our Facebook page, the MMDR Data Institute on Facebook, and it'll be streamed live there as well.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to take just a minute to set up, and while I'm doing that, I'm going to play something here, and I'll explain it in a second. to this meeting, you know, if you have a parent who has the flu, that's serious because they could lead to something more. But if they're in the hospital and they've had a heart attack or they have cancer and you think you may have only a little time, it's solemn. It is very serious. It's a time that's beyond the norm. If you break a leg, it's serious. But if you break a heart, it's solemn. The things that you're doing, as I look at the pictures on the wall, go beyond. They go beyond a serious event. If someone comes home late, your child comes home late, it's serious. You're looking for them. But if they don't come home at all, it's solemn, and the whole community comes together. And that's what you're doing here. So in that solemnness, I'm going to read something to you, but first let me open with a prayer. Say, Heavenly Father, Great Spirit, look down upon us today and guide my words that they may be our words. And guide our actions so they may be your actions. And protect us in all things that we may live according to your will. And we ask you especially to nourish our hearts and souls to each other, that we may protect one another and do the right things in life. And we ask all of this in Christ's name and the great Spirit's name. Amen. So for an opening, I have part of a poem. And it was one that I'd written 30 years ago. And while I was here, I worked here that many years ago. And what I'm going to read you is only about a third of the poem. Only about a third. But it was particularly, the poem is about a man who goes to a gathering. And at that gathering, he's talking to the people as if to say, you know, here you are having fun, but have you thought about the people that have nothing or who get lost, just like we're talking about children getting lost. And so he's relating to them a story about how important it is to see beyond the comforts of what's in front of you. And in that regard, Henry David Thoreau said, it is not as important what you look at. It is important what you see. So with that, let me just read this to you, and then we'll speak to the end in welcoming you to your mission. And this was the man speaking to the group. There was a lad, said he, who knew not pain or sadness, whose laugh was not impeded, who filled his parents' heart with gladness. One day when he and others were about, they ran beyond the pastur's edge. With glee they ran, with glee did shout. They ran without a care, they ran beyond the hedge. It's said that fate is unlike storm. It strikes without a warning. It strikes at palace, home or farm. It strikes while we're disarming. Fate befell this day, my friends, if I may call you friends, said he. Upon the happiness descended that morbid, wicked fate, which we call tragedy. The lad, said he, was like no other. Eagerly he'd clean the home. Willingly he'd help his father. Towards kindness was he prone. In morn, he'd rush to help the teacher. In evening, sweep the barn. On Sundays, help the preacher. The child beheld such charm. Now came that fateful day in May. Aye, how these parents loved their son. The children ran past baled hay, and in that moment he was gone. Gone? Where could he possibly go? The others, like all children, still played on. They ran past bales, ran both to and fro, bale above and bale below. And in that moment he was gone. Down, down he fell, his arms pinned to his side, down past gird and grit and grime, 280 feet to slide. And instantly against the crime arose the wail of all the souls of all of time. A hole of 18 inches all around, the opening never altered. Pressed in coffin, lined with ground, the earth had swallowed up the boy whose spirit never faltered. This lad was taken from his peace, suspended who knew where. Such ugly fate should not befall a beast, but still the earth it did not care. It held the lad by dirt and clay against the walls of lost forgotten well, taken him from brilliant sunny day and cast him down towards hell. The boy spent stunned in silent moments, though to him they seemed like hours. The terror in his mind ran torrent, while suddenly above his parents' glance the children run towards home. But where is ours? He looked up from the dirty hole at last 280 feet to a speck of light which was his past, a speck which was his freedom, whom even angels couldn't help to reach. He gathered every ounce of strength and screamed till crimson face, and still the earth held him full length, with speck above and feet that dangled into space. "Mommy, Mommy!" Now he cried. How came he to this place? And in the heavens not a tear was dried, as "Mommy, Mommy" echoed into space. First his parents and then the town, the search gave way to tears. Each looked high and low, but none looked down, and so he dangled in this netherworld, each moment past a year. Have you ever been below the ground? Asked our now anguished-looking person. The senses quit for lack of sight or sound, and your marrow feels the damp. A damp which pierces 'neath the eyes, which freezes muscle, freezes bone, that makes you wish somehow you'd die. And then terror fills your thoughts. Could somehow heart just turn to stone? Such was this place below the farm where the children used to play, while now above in father's arms the mother rued that fateful day that plucked her son away. At last they found a shoe outside the hole, a shoe beside this lost forgotten well. They shuddered at the thought down to their soul. It's not a hole, they thought, it's hell. Frantic now the town spent night and day without a pause or ceasing. Free the lad, must find a way before the lad quit breathing. The lad could hear some noise above. Dared he uplift his head? What happened to his mother's love? Why could he not be dead? For now the lad's mind faltered. 5 agonizing days had he been pinned, no rest beneath his feet or drop of water. How is it that one is punished who has not even sinned? At last a lower dwarf by rope, he wiggled, squirmed, and slithered. All knew this was the boy's only hope before the boy's life withered. The dwarf squirmed through canal like a child when it leaves the womb, but earth holds no allegiance to canals of birth or tombs. Inch by unforgiving inch, second by tortuous second, the earth held firm as did the cinch about the dwarf. At last the lad he beckoned. The lad who had endured responded with feeble sound and shallow breath. 'Twas now the 7th day beneath the ground. Had he not passed life's test? What test of life is this? His parents cried. Below, the dwarf grabbed one small arm. Hope for just an instant, and then began the slide or second tragedy on this farm. The dwarf tried hard to fight the panic. He gripped with all his might, but still his heart and mind went frantic, when in the arm a sudden twinge, and then more stillness than the night. Notwithstanding his tight grip, inch by inch the body slipped away, and then another 100 feet it slid, and now the hole became a grave. Up, he signaled with the rope, though down below it's done. Above they still had hope. A mother's breath abated for her son. Too soon the fear they dread do they discover. The men begin to sob and women wail. Mother lost son, and son lost mother. The father smites his fists against his head. His lips begin to pale. Some said the prayers were scorned the day that this lad died. Some said the world mourned, and some that angels cried. The grass grows now around the stone in front of which there is a basket, filled with flowers for small bones, in this damned hole, which now is casket. Every day do children fall in holes while the world looks away. It is a solemn effort that you have undertaken to reach for these people who feel as that lad did when they are taken, when they are lost, when they are abused, when they are somewhere and saying, how do I find my mother? How do I reach my father? How do I return to the life that I had? And the whole time feel the hopelessness that that child felt in a hole, trapped, from which they can't get out. I honor the work that you're doing, and I appreciate your commitment to try and help children and others to return to a normal life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conejo, for those powerful words. And in the spirit of that, as we move forward with the forum, we do want to make sure that the space that we're all coming from is a space of healing. I think in one way or another, each of us have had a relative who went missing, or a relative who might have been taken, not of their choice. So through that, we hope that these presentations that we have are going to be able to not only just provide education, but to kind of also give you a glimpse of what resources we have out there, what solutions we're trying to work towards, and where we as a working group are hoping to find some of these solution-based pathways. So I truly appreciate your support, Mr. Conejo, as well as your staff. Miss Juliana Dooley was very wonderful in helping us coordinate. She's sitting back there. So very much thankful for them to providing support. Did you want to do a couple of remarks? She's wonderful, so I'm going to make sure she is able to.
And thanks to Teresa back there. She put us together, and we're very happy to be able to provide you with the venue for this very important subject. But just to deviate a little bit and take care of some housekeeping, I want you to know that the bathrooms are right here to the right from through the door. Should we have a fire alarm, you can exit through the stairs there or through here and around the corner. So that being taken care of, I'm going to give it back to Jolene so you can get started with your very important mission.
Thank you. We are going to bring up our presentation, so we will go on to the next agenda item. As I mentioned before, Delegate Crotty's remarks will be in the afternoon, so we're going to go ahead and go into straight to the introductions and presentation. So if I could have our working group members please come up, just so you can kind of put a face to the name. Manasseh, I know you're sitting back there. I see you. Mesky, Lauren, Zoe, Kim, Patricia, Teresa, if you guys could all come up here. So while they're coming, I'll go ahead and have Miss Mesky, who's been a wonderful collaborator. She is the creator and founder of the Navajo Nation Missing Persons Updates. So if you're on Facebook and you see those flyers of missing Navajo relatives, this is the person who coordinates and puts all of that together. She's incredibly amazing.
Yeah. Yat ea bena. Sorry. Yat e shakedo shadina she miski yanabat yatsati yanashya. Nash ejadanenishlan. ThunderClan Prairie Band Potawatomi do Chichi Mecca Nakai Bashashin. Although Hatsoi Dashachedo Chichi Mecca Nakai Dashanale. Good morning, everyone. First off, I want to thank everybody for being here today. Such a beautiful morning. Look outside that window and you could just see the beauty of the landscape. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to be here and joining us for this very important forum. And just like Jolene had said, I am the founder of Navajo Nation Missing Persons, Missing Persons of the 21 Pueblos. And I'm also a member of this very wonderful group. And I'm very blessed to be able to know all these wonderful people that are taking their time to help us with our missing and our murdered Diné relatives. Thank you, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Patricia Olson, and I'm really happy to be helpful and do what little I can for the group. I think they're doing really great work, and it's nice to be here. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Manasseh Begay. If I knew I had to come up here, I would have come late today, but I'm with Diné College, and I'm here to help out the group in any way that I can.
Good morning. I'm Kia Ani Ashihi Ado Tukapahanda Che, I should say. Kia Ani. I'm Kia Ani Ashihi. Anyways, I'm Lauren Bernally with the Navajo Nation Human Rights Commission. I'm a policy analyst, and I'm really happy to see people here today. This is a very important issue, and as the policy analyst for the Navajo Nation Human Rights issues, we really look at human rights. And if you're Navajo, you understand the significance of Navajo women, our status within the Navajo culture traditionally, and how important our presence is in our ceremonies. So I really look forward to an active dialogue with everyone here. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Martin. I work with Sexual Assault Services of Northwest New Mexico. And I'm very proud to be a part of this group, and I look forward to working more with them. Thank you.
So as you can see, we have a very robust team, but we also have support from Indian Health Services.
Good morning. She'e nanish eje tachinin shlakila chini bashichin holtsoidana ada shichet lashe ada shanala. And I am Zoe McKenzie. I am the area injury prevention specialist for the Navajo area in Indian Health Service, and I'm also a veterinarian, and I'm from Shiprock.
So as I had mentioned before, we had started in March, and we are going to go ahead and go into this presentation. We feel like it's really important to also report back to the community and to the stakeholders as to the efforts that we have contributed to in some of the projects that we have been working on. So here we go. So what really spurred the MMDR movement for us was the tragic loss of Ashlyn Mike in 2016. Delegate Crotty, along with leadership in the 23rd Navajo Nation Council, received a lot of feedback from the public regarding what had happened. So that same month, Delegate Crotty sponsored legislation to establish a task force. And through that, it was established as the Nabakiatik Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee. And this was reestablished this year under Speaker Seth Damon. So each administration has to reestablish the task force, and we're very thankful to him for sponsoring that legislation and for the 24th Council in supporting that. So Delegate Crotty was the chairwoman for the SAP subcommittee, and the subcommittee addressed sexual and domestic violence, protecting Navajo children, and they also aided with policy advocacy at the state and federal levels. Just a quick background, before coming into this position, for the last 6 years, I worked for the Navajo Nation Office of the Speaker. I was a senior public information officer for the Navajo Nation Council, but I was also appointed as the policy analyst for the SAP subcommittee, and that appointment was made by former Speaker Lorenzo Bates. So Delegate Crotty and I have been engaged in this work since 2016. It's been amazing working with her. We both have the passion for this. So all of these steps that had taken since 2016 is just a culmination of where we're at now. So through we had another working group called the Sexual Violence Prevention Working Group, and through that we were able to branch off as the MMDR team. So our team is comprised of subject matter experts in data, epidemiology, victim advocacy, human rights, policy development, and history. So we do have a list here of some of our partners. Some of them are here today, and they introduce themselves. So here's a timeline just to kind of illustrate as far as when we had started. During the Tribal Leaders Summit at a coalition's event, I believe was in Bernalillo, Delegate Crotty had met with Anita Lucchesi, who is the pioneer of creating a database, the first MMIW database. And she had conveyed some information to us regarding cases that involved Navajo Nation members. And through that conversation, Anita said that you guys are a large tribe. You guys have several cases. It would be beneficial to you if you guys created some sort of data system as well. So we partnered with her, and she was able to provide a roadmap to the idea of us creating an MMDR Data Institute. So we established the partnerships with the groups within our working group, and this was done in April. And we started developing the idea of the Data Institute. Right now, Diné College and the Navajo Nation Epidemiology Center are going to be the co-agencies leading this initiative. And that's one part of one of the projects that we are doing. So in May, our team was assembled, and we went to work right away. We started to plan and look at areas that needed to be addressed as far as how do we get the community involved? And we held our first forum in June 2019. So the purpose of the forums initially was to look at what framework is the Data Institute going to look like? What's going to go into it? What community input can we draw from not only just the stakeholders, but the families, the people who are affected by the missing and murdered issue? So here's some information that we did receive from the information that we received from the Navajo Public Safety as well as FBI. So Navajo DPS receives an average of over 200 emergency calls annually. Half of those calls involve violence. Right now they have about 200 police officers and 30 criminal investigators that cover approximately 18 million acres of Navajo land. So if you were to put that into perspective, the Navajo Nation is about 27,000 square miles. We span into 3 states. So that is about 0.85 officers for every Navajo citizen. compared to what the U.S. national average is, where it's 16 to 24 officers for every 1,000 citizens. So you can have an officer who needs to respond to a domestic violence issue or something to that nature, and you're probably only going to get one officer. So that kind of paints a picture of what we're facing on the Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation responds to about 40 homicides per year, and murder within the Navajo Nation is 4 times the national average on a population per capita basis. The FBI reported about over 2,500 violent crimes, over 2,300 aggravated assaults, and about 160 rapes reported to law enforcement. When we looked at the reporting data information that we got from the Navajo Police Department, annually on average, there are probably about over 300 rapes reported to the Navajo Police Department. Currently, right now, of course, due to lack of resources, our police department do not have a crime analyst where they're able to really break down that data information to see what was the outcome of that case. Was it actually filed? Was it prosecuted? What was the outcome of that prosecution? Or basically just like what happened to that case. So we don't have that information at the moment. So we do have some numbers from our community-based partners, specifically the Navajo Nation Missing Persons Updates and the Sovereign Bodies Institute. In working with them, this was the information that they had collected at more of the grassroots level, which we feel like probably paints a more clear picture because they are the boots on the ground, they are the individuals working directly with the families, collecting this information, and they're also coordinating with law enforcement. For instance, Mesky, when she gets a case, she'll follow up with the police department to make sure that they have that on file. She makes sure that the families that she works with have also filed that case. So she's sort of funneling that information, so we feel like that's very accurate, and that's what right now what we're utilizing. So currently there are 164 missing persons cases, but that does fluctuate every week. I mean, the number could be different this week. And so the cases that we have on record right now date back to 1951. So roughly 30% of the missing are women, and about over 70% are male. So this was really interesting considering that the national MMIW movement is very focused on recovering and providing justice for our sisters, our mothers, our aunties, our grandmothers, our daughters who have gone missing. But the dynamic is incredibly different on the Navajo Nation. With the majority of our male population going missing, those are some of the issues that we really want to start looking at. And with some of the families that we had talked to, generally it had a lot to do with the lack of family support, the lack of mental health support. A lot of these individuals, the male relatives are veterans or, are in some sort of, cycle of whatever's going on at home. We don't know yet, so that's why we're here. 38% of the missing persons cases, 38% of the missing persons are missing persons cases, and 62% are the murder cases. So on the other end of the spectrum, the majority of the violence that's being perpetrated is against our women. The majority of our women are the murder cases, are the victims of domestic violence, are the victims of sexual violence. So as we created the Missing and Murdered Diné relatives, we knew we had to be incredibly inclusive and look at all facets of the issue. So we made sure that the terms that we utilize are inclusive. 41% of the cases on the Navajo Nation occurred on the Navajo Nation, 10% occurred in the rural off-reservation areas, and 49% occur in the urban communities. Right now, we are focused generally on the Navajo Nation, and we're also including the border towns. As far as urban information, urban data information, we generally rely on our outside partners who have that information. The reports from the community-based organization also indicate that the average age of a missing person on the Navajo Nation is 31. 22% of the cases reported involved young girls under the age of 18. And I think we all kind of get the picture of the second bullet there. So although there's little to no data reported as far as our LGBTQI and unsheltered relatives, we know that it's occurring. We do have collaborations with some of our LGBTQI groups who are working on this, working with us right now to kind of not only just gather those stories, but also to paint a picture for us as well as educate us on these issues. So I think it's really important that we also keep those relatives at the forefront of our thoughts as well. So a lot of the violence that happens on the Navajo Nation, even just relating to MMDR, is intergenerational trauma. And I know a lot of individuals have heard terms like this. People think they're just buzzwords. But for individuals who are living in these communities, our relatives, it's a reality. They face it every day, whether it's our children in school, whether it's our sheltered relatives, or even the systems that we have to utilize, such as social service programs and things of that nature. So again, although the crimes are perpetrated by males at a higher rate, we have to acknowledge that they are also victims of violence. Our next forum, which we will be holding in Tuba City, will focus on male sexual assault, male violence against men and boys within our community. So here are a couple of cases. I will make this PowerPoint slide available to everyone. So we have, of course, Ariel Kaczynski Begay's case, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but I think I want to share this slide. So in 2005, 2009, as well as 2009, we did have 3 Navajo transgender women who were found beaten to death in Albuquerque. And I want to share this because it's a new development that had come out of at least one of the cases in February 2018. Generally, a lot of the perpetrators who target our LGBTQI relatives are never found. And we felt like this was a victory for Cato Benali's family. And so I just wanted to share that. I know this case, I think, was pretty well known, so I just wanted to also share that outcome with everybody. So when we compare the data information from the police agencies as well as the FBI and with our community-based partners, we realize that it's a stark contrast. We understand that a lot of the Navajo programs are underfunded and data information does not interface across the board. So we have been working on creating that framework for the Data Institute. We had taken that responsibility on together as a working group. Once we were able to solidify a lot of the main objectives of what we want for the Data Institute, we passed it on to our partners, Navajo Epidemiology and Diné College. So they're currently now working on how to implement that framework and what that's going to look like. So we're really looking forward to that. So the purpose of the Data Institute is to improve the nation's capability to track cases, collect data, and develop more informed policies and efforts to bring our Diné relatives home. We don't want to step on any toes. I understand that a lot of our criminal investigators and law enforcement agencies are currently collecting the data information, but we also want to make sure that we're looking at it from all facets, from all perspectives, and that when we create these recommendations or if we get access to resources, we're able to report that back to the community. So the accountability for us is not only just these community forums, but we also want to make sure that we're producing something that's tangible, something that social service programs can use, something that can support our law enforcement. And that's our goal. So just to kind of give you an idea of some of the forums that we have held, The first forum was held in Shiprock at Diné College. Our second forum, which was in August, was held at NAU. And we have a forum here. So we're hoping to hold our next forum in Utah, and this will most likely probably be in the Monument Valley area. You are all more than welcome to join us there, but we're also going to include our Utah stakeholders. And then, again, as I mentioned before, our Tuba City Forum will be focused on sexual assault against our men and boys. And the dates for those right now, we're shooting between, I want to say, January and March, so keep a lookout for that. So when we held these community forums, a lot of people were kind of questioning why we were only collecting data information. What action were we doing? And we felt like we weren't at this step just yet. However, our group came up with the idea of creating a community action toolkit. And working with our volunteer advocates, we found that a lot of the family members that did come to our forums were asking us, how do you file a missing persons report? Who do I file it with? What information do I need? We also understand that there was a lot of jurisdictional issues. We have had families who filed in Farmington, but then they were told that they need to file with the Navajo Nation Police, and then Navajo Nation Police may have told them that they need to file, elsewhere. So it turns into this really bureaucratic process that really discouraged a lot of families from reporting, which is really important. The case number, especially with the work we're doing, is really important, especially when our volunteer advocates are out there working directly with the families. So we realized that from those last two forums, that everything that we're doing from that point on, there has to be an action that comes out of it. So our team had been divided into about 12 sub-teams. So each of us are working on specific areas on how not only can we get the Data Institute together, but how can we also encourage community mobilization, community education, awareness, advocacy. How can we gain access to different types of funding where we can directly support the families? And those are our main goals. So outside of the work that we're doing, we're very happy to report that the model that we have set out as far as our working group caught on with some of our state legislatures. We worked with them when they were developing these legislations. They worked directly with Delegate Crotty. They have attended our forums, and when these state task forces, Arizona and New Mexico specifically, they consulted with our working group as far as how they wanted to hold their first meetings, how did we connect with the families, and that sort of thing. So we're really happy that they were able to come on board. And then when we did start MMDR, we did have an audience with the Office of the President and Vice President, the Office of the Speaker and Council, and we were able to get their support. And through that, through the work we were doing, they were able to establish a missing persons unit. I know it's fairly new right now, but they're hoping to hire a crime analyst as well as hiring 4 or 5 additional advocates that can support the work that we're doing, especially in working directly with the families. As we understand, First Lady Cecilia Nez has also been appointed to the 2 state task forces. As I mentioned before, we are grassroots, and we do hold our leadership accountable. We do attend all the meetings that they're at. We make sure that we're at the table, whether we're invited or not. We make sure that our message is heard, and that's where we're coming from. We're ambitious. Like I said, we started in March, and we're at this point now where we're putting all our words into action, and we expect the same from our leadership. So I don't want to take too much time because we're already at 9 o'clock. So here's the background information for us. Zoe, I don't know if you're still in here. I think she wanted to add something to this. So if you guys want more information, please send an email to us at navajommdr@gmail.com. We are also on Facebook, where this is being streamed live. Again, if you have colleagues or friends that were not able to join us, they can definitely join us online. And then these are just some of the references we have. So are there any questions regarding any of the slides?
County Commissioners. I want to thank all of you. Here la ko e ya jo ki ya tie. Ko e ya be his anidal ya la. Ko an jon ye. Hitla ko ke da hit en an George. Ko hinat anidal o city of the mayor. Do the commissioner leje trasata fern. Thank you for coming. The city commissioners. I don't see the state of New Mexico legislators here. They need to be here. Or either that, you already made communication like that with them. We have, there's a poster down in one of the local stores with all the names. I'll cross-check what you got with that one. There's some missing. There's 13 names. We're putting this on data. That's the data of our community. So every border town, we got a city, we have a truck stop. Although we have liquor stores, although there's methamphetamines on South 2nd Street, although there's a lot of violence here in the city of Gallup. And the violence, I've been a witness of violence where a native man, was beating a native woman with a baseball bat. So I went, as old as I am, I tried to intervene. And it took 20 minutes for the sheriff's department to come. Although when we got into court, the DA, district attorney, and the prosecutors, the judge, they plea bargained out of that. That's what's going on here in the courts. I think we need to put pressure on the courts also. We need their data. We need the city of police departments of data, the FBI's data. What do they got? What kind of reports did they make on these? We know this is marginalized by social and economics. Out of that, there's a target of hate here. Hatred towards women, even though you said that it's a male percent is higher. But here in Gallup, it's, if you look at, we got to look at the data. And my recommendation is there's poverty, there's a homelessness, street people. Yesterday there was a fight over there on the north side. This guy was beating on the women and a young man over there. And I had to yell at him too, and he took off. So the city or the border towns, whether it's Farmington, Gallup, Flagstaff, Winslow, there's a lot of violence. What does that cause from? It's caused from alcohol, drugs. There's no clanship, fellowship at that. So in that way, I think the inquiry, we need to do an inquiry and then make reports at a chapter. That's my other recommendation. So with your data, I'm listening here real close here, what you're talking about. Here had the task force members, you're doing outstanding here. But I think you still need to involve somebody from the border towns, not only the government agencies. You need to come down to the grassroots people in border towns. You probably had reservation people. That's good. So with that, that's my recommendation. And then the main one, I think you're saying, your report is saying that you're really not working with statistics with some agencies. With the border towns, I think we need to do a memorandum of agreement with the police agencies, with maybe the courts can look at that too. So this is serious. The way I look at it, it's very serious, because I've seen 2 assaults within 30 days. That's my recommendation.
Thank you so much for that valuable input. And I do encourage, as we finish our presentations, if you have questions or if you need to make a remark, we do record everything. In terms of invitation to local city officials, we did extend that to the mayor as well as city council officials. We did invite all the law enforcement agencies within this area, McKinley County Sheriff, Gallup PD, even the FBI. So we're hoping that they're able to make an appearance at least today. However, tomorrow our day 2 will be a facilitated discussion. The setup of this room may be a little bit different, and that's where the work and the action actually starts. So if we're able to have these stakeholders here at the table that are within the Gallup area, that gives a chance to our community members here to interface with them, to ask those questions, to provide those recommendations. And that is one of the main reasons we do facilitate these forums. And we want to make sure we do it out of the spirit of in the spirit of collaboration, so that we're all able to come together, community members, grassroots, the larger agencies can come together and start to foster that relationship with one another. I don't know if that's ever been done before, but I'm hoping that this can be a start in terms of addressing MMDR as well as our unsheltered relatives and LGBTQIS. Any other questions? Okay. So it looks like we do have our presenter for the next presentation. And I also want to thank the New Mexico Indian Affairs Department. They have been very integral in helping us along with this initiative. We've been supporting one another, bouncing ideas off of one another. And I want to thank through their department for creating their MMIW task force for New Mexico. And we do appreciate the task force members for taking the initiative to be a part of what we're doing, not only just for the state of New Mexico, but for Navajo relatives as well as our the border town areas in New Mexico. So Samantha, are you ready? Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you all for welcoming me, and I'm happy to be here. My name is Samantha Walls, and I am the project assistant for the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force, which is chaired by the Secretary Trujillo in the Indian Affairs Department. So I'm really excited to be here today, mainly to learn from you all. We just started the work of the task force. We had our first convening, which I'm going to talk about later, but I'm really here to learn and to listen from what you all have been doing. So I'll be taking notes, and I'll be available throughout the rest of the day. So if you want to talk about how to connect with the task force, what we're doing, or share your input, I'll be here. So many of you know that earlier this year, the state legislature passed a bill to establish the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Task Force. Well, it took some time, but we finally got 11 members confirmed by the governor to sit on the task force. And, Secretary chairs the committee, but it's really made up. We have someone from the Office of the Medical Investigator there. We have representatives from different pueblos as well as other tribal nations in New Mexico. We have law enforcement, victim advocates, and survivors that represent the task force. And I think we definitely identify the community, the larger community, as members of the task force, which is why at our first meeting and future meetings, we will always have a community forum to get that insight from our community members. So HB 278, which is the MMIW bill, tasked the task force to recommend how the state can increase resources for reporting and identifying missing and murdered Indigenous women cases, collaborate with tribal law enforcement agencies to determine the problem and create recommendations to better report cases, and work with tribal governments and communities to ensure that the ways in which this crisis is impacting and showing up in our communities is reflected in a final report that will be drafted. And also to collaborate with federal partners such as DOJ to improve information sharing and just coordination of resources across the nation, because yes, New Mexico is being hit hard by the number of cases of MMIW as we've seen in some of the recent reports, but this is definitely something that is happening across the nation. So the task force has narrowed down the goals to include, we really want to understand as much as possible the scope of this ongoing crisis in our communities and in our state, and develop recommendations so that the state can implement and dedicate resources towards. And we also, again, want to just ensure that our Native community out here in the state of New Mexico is reflected in that report. So we had our first meeting on November 8th, and it was overall pretty successful. We had a really huge turnout. About 60 to 70 people showed up and participated, in addition to our 11 task force members. And the focus of that meeting was to really identify what is the clear scope of work of this task force and the report that will be drafted out, identifying and sharing the goals of the task force to the public. Also identifying community partners. We're 11 people on this task force, and there's no way 11 people can address this issue alone. So we're really relying on the community, and we're doing whatever we can to foster those relationships and build that collaboration with you all and other community members to be able to do this work. We also had some survivors speak and share their stories. And we just had open discussion about what we want to see reflected in the report, who we should be reaching out to partner with, and also what resources we need to be tapping into in order to gather and demonstrate the full scope of this crisis. So here are some pictures from that meeting. How many of you participated or showed up? Because I see some familiar faces. Yeah, we definitely want to welcome you all to come to these meetings. And it was in Albuquerque, the first one, but we want to host these meetings in different locations throughout the state. So that is one way that you can definitely get involved and support the work of the task force. If you can host us at your organization or the facility that will be good in your community, we definitely want to partner and do that for future task force meetings. So, like I said, overall, the feedback and the response from that meeting was positive. We did get some suggestions and recommendations on how to improve and make the task force meetings more effective and informative. So, we're always looking for feedback so we can make sure that we are doing this work in a meaningful way. But some of the general feedback and input that we got from task force members and community members was that, we need to make sure that we're doing more than using the stories of the survivors and those who are impacted by this crisis. That the ways in which we reflect this in the final report and the ways in which we engage with these individuals has to be respectful of their culture, their identity, and what they've been through. So that is one of our main priorities for our next task force meeting, is developing a protocol for engaging survivors and those impacted by this crisis, and determining how do we incorporate or reflect their experiences in this final report to showcase the full extent of what is going on. Other feedback was just highlighting the gaps within the system, particularly law enforcement and the justice system, how they can be strengthened to better support those who are impacted, and also reporting these cases. There was a lot of talk about law enforcement developing protocols and systems to strengthen their communication across different departments and agencies. Utilizing police and state resources when using databases that are important to reporting and investigating cases of missing persons, particularly NCIC and NamUs. Also recognizing that there is a huge resource gap when we talk about supporting those who are survivors, right? Our family members who are impacted, struggling with having to deal with a loved one being missing or murdered. What resources are available? So people brought up the fact that there were shelters and organizations that have shut down because of lack of funding, and that needs to be important. Also, just the difficulties that families are having of trying to get information, whether it's from law enforcement or other databases that could be useful in helping them just deal with their crisis at that moment, whether it's dealing with a family member being murdered or having gone missing. We will be putting out a summary of notes from that meeting, and so that will go out and be public on, I believe, the state website, and you all will be notified. It'll be available to the public either at request or, like I said, on the state website before the next task force meeting, which will happen next month. The task force has decided in order to accomplish these goals, we need to meet at least once a month up until the end of the grant period, which is the end of June of 2020. So not a lot of time, which means we've got to be really thoughtful and strategic about how we accomplish things. But our next meeting right now, the tentative date is December 12th. There will be a public announcement that will go out. I have a sign-up sheet with me that I'll pass around once I'm finished, and you all can get signed up on our listserv, but also it'll be a way for myself and Stephanie Salazar, who is also leading this work at the department, to reach out to you all so that we can collaborate. The focus of the next meeting will be to really develop an action plan, and also, like I said earlier, we want to come up with a system for gathering survivor testimony. So we know that that's going to be important in order to really understand how the system is failing our community members and those that have been impacted by this crisis. So we definitely encourage those of you who have experience in working with survivors, listening and hearing survivors' stories, to work with us in developing these protocols and also gathering this testimony. We're also going to be developing subcommittees on the task force to gather data, understand the issues and barriers that exist, collect survivor testimony, engage with stakeholders, and develop recommendations. So, that'll be a major focus of next month's meeting. I'm definitely here today not only to let you know what we've been up to and where we're going, but I also really want to put out a call to action to you all. I'm here to learn. The task force is open to learning in addition to sharing their expertise in order to come up with some recommendations. But we really do want to work with communities to put out a report that is going to be impactful. And the only way we can do that is by you all just getting involved. So please join our listserv, share your input at the upcoming task force meetings. And then, like I said, partner with us if you are able to host us in your local immediate community, so that way we get a varying perspective and input on this issue across the state. And we also do need help with gathering survivor testimony and the key data that is going to be essential to highlighting the depth of this problem in our communities. And you can contact the department about anything related to the task force at iad.mmiw@state.newmexico or nm.us. I'm Samantha Walls again, and you can also contact me anything related to the organizing of the task force meeting. So if you want something to be put on the agenda, or you have questions about the agenda, or you want a report of the summary from the last meeting, feel free to reach out to me. And you can also reach out to Stephanie Salazar specifically if you want to partner with the task force. And so that is our contact information, and you can always meet with me throughout the day to connect and exchange information as well. But any questions? We're just getting started, folks, and so there's definitely opportunity to help shape the direction of this task force if you are really interested and motivated to do so. And so get in contact with us for sure. But any questions? Okay. Is it okay if I pass around the sign-in sheet? Okay.
So we're going to pass around a sign-in sheet for that you mentioned. Also, could we, I'm going to pass around the mic, and could you just tell us your name and what office you represent? We have a lot of different people here, and we would like to see where everybody's from.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Perkins. I work at the Tehato Medical Center in Fort Defiance. I work for the Family Advocacy Unit, the Family Advocacy Center. I'm a family advocate there, and I'm here along with my colleague. We're both family advocates, and it's kind of, we have one of the, one of the sexual assault units here on the reservation that we serve for our community and our victims.
Yate Sheya Lynette Gilmore Yanishia Hashka Hadzo Nishlin do Twa Hana Bashishin Aro Tetnislinia Dashiche do Twa Headlinia Dashanella. I'm also a family advocate, like Steph said, at the Family Advocacy Center, and we are the sexual assault unit at the Fort Defiance Hospital, and we serve reservation-wide, also covering into New Mexico and the other tribes like Hopi and Zuni, and even cases from Durango and up in Utah. So we are the two advocates there at the unit. We have a registered nurse who is taking training to do SAKES, and we also have our director, Dr. Ornelas, who started Para los Niños at UNM in Albuquerque, and she was recruited by the Fort Defiance Hospital to create the same program for our people. And she's a true trailblazer for our people, and she's really thoughtful and respectful in ways that she wants to be of service to a lot of the people who are experiencing sexual assault and child sexual abuse. So we're very honored to work with her and work with other agencies like Chinle, Farmington, Gallup, Flagstaff, and serve people, because prior to our department opening, patients had to be flown out to other areas, and that, under the trauma they're facing, it's unimaginable to have to extend treatment in places like that when it's not available to our community. So we do support the MMDR task force, and we were at the forum in Flagstaff. And I just want to commend the committee for doing such a wonderful job and collaborating with everyone that is here this morning. I wish you all a good day and safe travels in this cold weather. Stay warm. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll step out away from the pillar. Yate, good morning. My name is James Toledo. I'm the program manager with the Utah Division of Indian Affairs, so I think I'm probably the one who traveled the furthest to get here. I'm from Salt Lake City, and I'm attending the event to kind of help coordinate more closely with the working group as we start to plan the Utah Forum. And so my office has been contacted, and so we're working with our state agencies to looking at ways of how to make the Utah Forum productive and meeting the goals of the task force. So I'm here to learn and to listen from what you guys are doing here in New Mexico. And so yeah, thank you.
Hello, I have a cold, so forgive me. I'm Fran Palachuk. I'm a city councilor for the city of Gallup. My former life, I was a court administrator for the district court. My area of expertise is domestic violence, sexual assault. And what I do in the city of Gallup is I not only represent the constituents, but for me, I volunteer at Catholic Charities in a drop-in breakfast, and we serve street people that need a hot meal. And I do that 2 times a week. So we have direct contact with folks that are out there. We get to see firsthand what they experience and what their needs are. That helps me as a counselor. So in this time of Thanksgiving, if you have a home, you have a warm home, you have clothing, you have food, remember there are many that don't. And one little act of kindness and acknowledgement to the people that live out in the streets, acknowledge that they are human, and be kind to them. And that goes a long way. That can really help them to step up and know that they are worthy to become sober and lead a productive life. I've had many come to us and say, your act of kindness made me want to change my life. So that cost you absolutely nothing. Kindness is free. So feel free to give it away. Thank you.
Yate Pene, Dempsey Harvey, a she Tashamado, Hanesani Tashaja, Toy Lini Tashanal, Hanagani Tashache. Ado Sahlito Dike, Lamit Hadinasha. Navajo Police Department and Police Captain.
Good morning. My name is Teresa Yazzie. I'm the District Injury Prevention Specialist for the Gallup and Crown Point Service Unit. Tsena Bethin Shlon, my Dishkiji Bashishin, Kintlachini Dashanala, Ado Hawanthane Dashache.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alvin Young. I'm retired, but before I retired, I was the lay prosecutor for the Zuni Prosecutor's Office. And the reason why this subject matter really interests me is because just this past year, we had a niece who was murdered down here in Brett Springs by her boyfriend. Another reason why I'm interested in this subject is because while I was a prosecutor in Zuni, I prosecuted over 30 cases of domestic violence and endangering the welfare of a child, where the child was there while the offender was beating the victim. And even though I am retired, I still research this subject of the murder of missing females and males. But I just got here, so I'm just going to listen to see what type of information that y'all can give to the other workers here.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. Doyate shike do shitne no sini ko asa no sinige. My name is Lester Yazzie. I'm the legislative assistant for the Honorable Speaker Seth Damon, and I do have a background in child protective services, adult protective services work, so kind of interested in this field. This is my first meeting that I'm attending, and I've also want to extend an appreciation to Ms. Holgate and you and Honorable Madam Delegate Crowdy for taking on this initiative. So I hope to be joining you guys today and just kind of learning from this group here. Thank you very much.
Again, my name is Manas Begay, and I'm with Diné College, part of the working group here. I'm a faculty at Diné College, and I have a different history of prior jobs, but here to learn and to support as much as I can.
Yat ebene. Jade Gilachini don and Schlido Tratnesani Bashichin Kachini the Shache Betani the Chanel. I come out from Shiprock as a family therapist. They said they needed some counseling or counselors over here, so somebody needs counseling. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kate Gretzinger. I'm a reporter for KUER. We are the NPR station for the state of Utah. So I came down here because this issue affects people in Utah as well.
She was also at the first forum.
Yeah. Hello again, everyone. I'm Samantha Walls, and originally from California, but my relatives are from the Great Plains. I'm Lakota, and came to New Mexico earlier this year and to just kind of build my life with my partner. And we're loving, the Southwest out here. We're loving the community and feeling embraced everywhere we go. So thank you all. But my background is in victim advocacy. I lived in DC for some time and worked with the National Center for Victims of Crime, also worked with the National Congress of American Indians and the Tribal Law and Policy Institute to address gaps in resources that exist when trying to serve Native Americans when they become a victim of a crime, whether that's DV,